Hey everybody, Tracy here. In this video, I'm doing a painting for my son's bedroom. His bedroom is decorated in fox theme or like outdoor theme, kind of foresty, woodsy colors. So I decided that I would use two canvases. So I'm actually working on two separate things in this video, or two separate canvases, to paint some trees and leaves, but instead of just painting trees, I kind of wanted it to look like we were in the trees or in the branches. So I just outlined really quickly in pencil some branches and leaves that I'm going to kind of follow along with here. So in this first little section, I'm doing the brown of the tree. And these canvases I ordered online, they were a little bit weird. I think they're the Phoenix brand, and it said that they were watercolor compatible. It said that they were primed and everything, and for professional watercolor use that wouldn't like get soggy and would hold water really well. But I found out that one of the canvases in the pack of four that I ordered didn't really live up to that expectation. It kind of held water on top of it, and I had to use either a lot of paint or a lot of water to get it to cover the part of the canvas that I was working on. The other canvas that I used for this video and this project was the exact same type, but it didn't do that. It held the watercolor paint really well and made it really easy to work with. So I don't know why that one canvas in the pack wasn't working well. I still have two more from that same pack that I'm going to do for my daughter's room a little bit later on this year. So I wonder if I'm going to run into the same issues. Regardless, I think these two paintings turned out all right. I used handmade or modern made watercolor paints that I got from Target last year. And for the trees, I used a chestnut brown. And then for these first leaves, I used the color Ivy. And I wanted to my goal was to try to make it so nothing painted the same color touched each other. For the most part, I succeeded in doing that, but towards the end, I realized that, I hadn't structured it correctly for none of the similar colors to touch. So in this part of the painting, I'm using a color called Caterpillar. And like I said, my son's room is like fox themed or foresty themed. So I wanted to stick with greens and orange, and I chose yellow to be the final color to try to avoid the colors touching. And I thought that the yellow might give it sort of like a sunshine look, as well as go with the orange fall look, because orange leaves usually occur in the fall. So I just went through and I did one or two leaves or background section in each little compartment that the branches created. And I just colored them in. I tried to do like one side dark and then use water to pull the color to the other side to kind of make a gradient. And on some of the leaves that worked, on other leaves that did not work. It was especially hard with the canvas that had the water balling up on it, because it wouldn't spread. So I either had to use a lot of paint or I had to use a lot of water. But I think the orange definitely turned out to be my favorite color to work with. This paint was called Orange Juice. and it was really bright. And when I got it to go with the gradient from dark to light, it looked really cool. I think it turned out really well when I got it to work. But I am definitely a beginner slash amateur painter, so these were not these paintings are definitely not, you know, high artist quality or anything, but I really liked doing them. They actually, both of these took me about a month to do because whenever I would pull them out, my son would either be eating lunch, so he's like in his high chair, so he couldn't really interfere with my painting, and my daughter would be sleeping. So, like, those two things kind of had to come together to allow me to complete these paintings, and they did not always do so. Whenever my daughter would be sleeping and my son would be playing, if I pulled out the paints and got myself prepared and started painting, he would immediately come up to me and say, "I paint, I paint." In which case, like, how do you say no to that? So I just I had to put all my stuff away and get out his little paints. I have like some pictures that he paints. They're like, you know, barnyard or something with ducks and horses and all that fun stuff. So I would pull those out and then he would get to paint instead of me. So it took me about a month to do both of these. And that's why I only recorded a couple like little clips of each color instead of trying to record the whole painting and then doing all of it fast forward, or high speed. So like I figured if I could just record little clips of working with each color, then you would still get the idea of what I was doing, but not have to not have I wouldn't have to record the entire thing, which you know, with a toddler and a 3 month old, you, I just never know when I'm going to have enough time to work on these things. So it just kind of sits out and waits for me. It just calls to me. And then when the stars align, when the planets align, I get to actually really work on it. So the last color I used was this yellow color, and it's called Canary Yellow, and I think it worked really well with the other colors. I think it brings it together, brings the painting together, and I still tried to do that dark to light gradient, even though yellow is a light color anyways. I think it worked out. One thing I did have trouble with in this project was the water hitting what had already been painted and what had already dried, and then pulling that color into the color I was currently using. So like if I was doing the yellow and I would hit the brown, it would pull the brown into it, or I would hit the green and it would pull the green into it. So I definitely found myself running into that as an issue, um, the closer I got to completing the paintings, because, you know, more and more parts of the canvas were already covered. So then to finish up, after I got all of the paint on there, I just used a black pen, black fine point pen, and I drew in some veins on some of the leaves. I think I did one leaf per section to get the veins, and then on the framing of the painting, I actually went back and painted the framing brown so that when I hung it up right here, it wasn't white against the wall. And here you can see I used both of them to frame the window. And I think it turned out pretty well. I'm happy with them.